She didn't hear him slip into the room. She didn't feel the cold metal brush her neck. But the moment she opened her eyes, she saw it. Her own hair scattered across the floor like a crime scene, cut by the very man who signed her paychecks and destroyed her confidence. And if you think that was the worst moment of her life, wait until you hear what she did next. Welcome to today's emotional story. Before we dive in, tell me in the comments where you're watching from right now. And if you're ready for a wild, heartbreaking, unbelievable journey, make sure you tap that like button so more people can join us. If she had known the week would end with her hair scattered across a marble floor, she might not have rushed through the revolving glass doors of Sterling Industries that morning. But at 7:12 a.m., all she knew was panic, the kind that tightens your chest and makes your keys slip from your fingers 3 times in a row. Her name was Elin Hart. Ava to everyone except her mother, who insisted on using her full name as though every interaction were a formal ceremony. 27, soft-spoken, quietly competent, and chronically overlooked, she moved through the world as though trying not to disturb it. Her long, honey-brown hair, thick, silky, falling to her waist, was her one indulgence, her one vanity, and the one thing people actually noticed about her. As a kid, it made her feel special. As an adult, it made her feel safe, especially around Hawthorne Vale, her billionaire boss with eyes like winter steel and a reputation for breaking anyone who dared to disappoint him. She kept that hair like armor. And today, she needed all the armor she had because her sister's wedding was in 2 days and the entire family had been buzzing. No, obsessing over it for months. Her sister, Julietta, was the kind of bride who needed the world to orbit around her. Every detail had to be perfect, curated, immaculate. Avellini was supposed to be her maid of honor, but she was also supposed to be tastefully invisible. Julietta's words. So Ava had planned her dress, her shoes, and especially her hair with precision. It was the one day she wanted to feel beautiful. Even if standing next to Julietta's blinding glow ensured she would still be the quiet one. She rushed through the lobby toward the elevators, clutching 2 coffees. One for her, one for the man who barely acknowledged her existence. When the elevator doors slid shut, Ava finally exhaled. She leaned back against the mirrored wall, her breath fogging faintly, her reflection small and tense. Her phone buzzed. A text from Julietta. Julietta, don't forget to moisturize your arms. They'll be visible in your dress photos. Julietta, and please don't experiment with anything new. We don't need surprises. Julietta, your hair appointment is Friday morning. For the love of God, don't cut it before then. Ava closed her eyes. Julietta's requests always felt like commands wrapped in glitter. But Ava typed back anyway. Ava, I won't. Promise. The elevator chimed as it reached the penthouse floor. She stepped out, coffee in hand, her pulse speeding up. Because she knew this floor belonged to one person, someone no one irritated on purpose. Hawthorne Vale, CEO, billionaire, and rumored descendant of the actual storm cloud that followed him everywhere. He wasn't cruel in the dramatic, shouting way managers in movies were. No, Hawthorne was quiet, controlled, and terrifying precisely because he never raised his voice. His calm was a weapon. His silence was a blade. And yet, there was something else beneath it. Something she could never describe without sounding ridiculous. A warmth. A flicker. A softness that leaked out only when he wasn't looking. The door to his office was slightly ajar. Ava lifted her hand to knock. Enter. His voice cut through the air like a clean slice. She stepped in. Hawthorne didn't look up from his computer. His black suit fit him like it had been carved directly onto him. His sleeves were rolled just enough to show forearms that made his assistant team whisper constantly. Ava placed the coffee on his desk. Your cappuccino, Mr. Vale. He typed. You're late. Only by 3 minutes, sir. He lifted his eyes, and there it was, that unspoken force that made her feel as though he saw through her like glass. 3 minutes, he repeated, is still late. Her throat tightened. Yes, I'm sorry. He watched her longer than necessary. She could never tell what he was thinking during these stretches of silence. His expression didn't change, but the air always did, thickened, sharpened. Then he said, Your hair is different. Her hand flew to the strands automatically. Different? No. I just let it air dry today. He studied her, gaze lingering on her face, her eyes, her hair. Something unreadable flickered in his expression. "You look," he stopped. His jaw flexed. Well, a compliment from Hawthorne Vale was an omen, not a blessing. It always meant something was shifting, tightening, sliding toward danger. "Thank you," she whispered. He looked away first, clearing his throat as if annoyed at himself. "Prepare the financial brief for the investor call at 10. "Yes, sir." And he hesitated. "Close the door on your way out." Ava left, heart racing. She didn't notice the way his eyes followed her reflection in the glass wall as she walked away. Hawthorne Vale did not believe in weaknesses. He did not believe in softness, vulnerability, or any form of emotional transparency. People who opened themselves up got torn apart. He knew that from experience, from scars he kept hidden under bespoke suits and silence. But when it came to Avellini Hart, she irritated him, not because she was incompetent. On the contrary, she was frighteningly efficient. Not because she was loud, she barely spoke, but because she made him feel something. Something he had stitched shut years ago. He had noticed her hair on her first day, and every day after. It was impossible not to. Golden, soft-looking, a curtain she hid behind, yet somehow also the only part of her she seemed proud of. He noticed how she touched it when nervous, how she used it to shield her face when embarrassed, how she pushed it behind her ear when concentrating, a delicate, careful motion, like she was trying not to break something fragile. But this morning, she glowed. Not from makeup or clothes. No, that wasn't Ava. What glowed was something inside her. Hope, excitement, joy. It infuriated him. Who had she been thinking about? Why had she smiled that way at her phone? And why did it bother him? He closed his laptop hard enough that the room seemed to flinch. He did not have time for distractions, especially the harmless, shimmering kind with soft hair and shy smiles. Still, he found himself glancing toward the hallway again, just for a second, just to be sure she hadn't gone too far. Ava spent the morning drowning in spreadsheets, reports, and emails from Julieta telling her what not to do with her own appearance. Her stomach knotted tighter with each message. She wanted to be happy for her sister. She really did. But the constant pressure to be less noticeable, less pretty, less present, was suffocating. When lunchtime came, she barely noticed. She stayed at her desk, focused, quiet, invisible, until the office door opened, and Hawthorne stepped out. "Avellini. Yes. I'll be working late tonight. Prepare the conference materials and stay until I leave." Her eyes widened. "Tonight? I've already worked 13 hours this week. Then you're warmed up." "But sir, the wedding rehearsal." He froze. "Wedding?" She swallowed. "My sister's rehearsal dinner is tonight." He stared at her, as if she had just delivered news he hadn't authorized. Then, too smoothly, he said, "I see." A pause. An unbearable silence. "You can leave at 8. 8 meant she'd missed the entire rehearsal. "Yes, sir," she said quietly. But as he turned away, she saw something flicker in his eyes. Something sharp, possessive, uneasy. She didn't understand it. She didn't question it. She just obeyed, as always. That night, long after the office had emptied, long after the city lights had blurred into a smear of golden shadow, Ava found herself nodding off at her desk, exhaustion pulling her under like a warm tide. Her hair spilled across her shoulders like liquid sunlight as she drifted, her breathing soft, even, her lips slightly parted, a strand of hair falling over her cheek. She slept, peacefully, trustingly, never hearing the footsteps that approached, never seeing the man who stood over her, never sensing the storm inside him, jealousy, longing, confusion, anger, twisting into something reckless. His hand hesitated, then reached, but that moment comes later, 2 hours later, when exhaustion finally overcame her and the world went dark. For now, Act 1 ends at the exact second her eyes close, while Hawthorne watches from the shadows of the doorway, breathing too quietly, standing too still, fighting something he refuses to name. The building was silent, so silent that the hum of the air conditioner felt like a heartbeat. The city outside glittered in the windows, lights flickering like distant signals Ava would never see because she was already half asleep, her cheek resting on her forearm. Her long hair, cascading over the desk like spilled gold. Hawthorne stood at the threshold. He shouldn't have been there. He had finished his work 20 minutes ago. He could have left. He should have left. But something about the soft stillness around her held him hostage. He watched her chest rise and fall in a slow, peaceful rhythm. Her eyelashes, long and dark, fluttered slightly as if she were dreaming. A faint smile tugged at her lips. Maybe something in that dream made her happier than anything in her real life ever did. His jaw clenched. That bothered him. It bothered him more than he'd ever admit. He stepped inside, each footstep silent over the carpet. He moved like someone approaching a fragile painting or a wild animal. Slow, careful, unsure if touching it would break something sacred. Her hair slid slightly as she shifted, a few strands gliding over her cheek. It glowed in the dim light, almost unreal. Too gentle, too soft for someone in his world. And yet, he reached out, almost without thinking, and brushed a piece away from her face. His fingertips hovered just above her skin, close enough to feel warmth, far enough not to touch. He froze. What was he doing? Why did he care? A flicker of jealousy, sharp, acidic, shot through him at the memory of her texting someone earlier. That tiny smile she gave her phone screen haunted him. It wasn't a smile she ever gave him. His mind flashed. Who was she smiling for? Who was she thinking about? Who would see her at that wedding? Would she glow like that there too? For someone else? His chest tightened painfully. He hated it. He hated feeling. His eyes fell to her hair again. Her beautiful, fragile, perfect hair. He hated that too. Not because it was beautiful, but because it made her beautiful. Because it made her noticeable. Because it made her matter. And some ugly, wounded part of him whispered, if she didn't look like that, maybe she wouldn't affect you like this. He backed away suddenly, breathing hard. No, this was ridiculous. He was ridiculous. He paced the room once, twice. But every time he passed her, his eyes dropped to the same place. That cascade of hair. His mother had hair like that. Long, soft. Always perfect. Right until the day she left him. Right until the day she ran off with someone richer, leaving Hawthorne with a father who believed men should never feel anything at all. His throat tightened. He swallowed it down. He glanced at Ava again. Sleeping. Vulnerable. Unaware. Something broke inside him, quietly, like a single thread snapping. Then he noticed the scissors on the credenza. Her scissors. She used them to cut tags off sample products. He had seen her use them 100 times. He reached for them before he could stop himself. The metal felt cold. Clean. Final. He stood over her. His shadow fell across her face. His breath shook. He lifted a fistful of her hair, silky, warm from her skin. It slid through his fingers like water. And for a moment, he almost let it go. Almost. But the jealousy, the softness, the fear of what she made him feel, all of it twisted into one reckless impulse. His jaw tightened. The blade opened. A cold shink cut the silence. And then, he cut. A thick lock fell to the floor silently. Another. Another. He didn't cut evenly. He didn't cut gently. He cut out of emotion, the worst kind. The kind he had pretended for years he didn't have. And when he stepped back, the damage was unmistakable. One side jagged, the other uneven. Some pieces short, others long. A ruin. A betrayal. Hawthorne froze. He stared at what he had done, as if someone else had controlled his hands. A moment passed. A long, terrible moment. Before Ava stirred. Her brow furrowed. Her head lifted slowly. Her blurry eyes met his silhouette first, then the scissors, then the floor. Her breath hitched. Confusion. Fear. Realization. She touched her hair. The unevenness. The missing weight. And a soft sound left her, almost too small to be a cry. Avellini. Hawthorne began, but his voice cracked. She lurched forward, fingers digging into the strands that were left. What did you? Her voice trembled. Her eyes filled fast. He stepped forward instinctively. Avellini, listen. She stumbled backward, so fast she hit the edge of the desk. No. No. My hair, what did you do? He dropped the scissors. They clattered against the floor. I didn't, but he couldn't finish the sentence. Because she stared at him with something he had never seen from her. Not fear, not sadness, not disappointment. Hurt. Genuine, piercing hurt. Her hand shook as she touched the uneven ends. Why would you do that to me? Why would you hurt me like Like that. Her voice cracked on the last word. It hit him like a blow. He opened his mouth. No words came. Ava backed away, her chest heaving. Was it funny? Was this some joke? Did I do something wrong? Did I? No, his voice was raw. Avelini, She shook her head violently. You ruined it. He flinched. You ruined me. The words echoed. And for the first time in his adult life, Hawthornvale felt actual panic. He reached out. She recoiled as if burned. He dropped his hand. He stepped back, as though giving her space would somehow undo the damage. Her breathing grew sharper, faster. She wrapped her arms around herself, shaking. My sister's wedding is in 2 days. A beat of silence hit the room, heavy as stone. And you, her voice wavered, you took the one thing I had. His heart twisted. Ava. She turned away, tears spilling silently onto the desk. Just go. Please. Please just go. He didn't move. He couldn't. He was trapped in the moment he created. But she didn't look at him again. Her shoulders curled inward, small and protective. Her hair, the uneven pieces left, clung to her cheeks like broken ribbons. When she finally whispered, "Leave," her voice was so fragile it nearly shattered him. He took a slow breath, then another. Finally, he backed toward the door. One step, another. His chest felt tight, as if someone were pressing a hand over his ribs. He paused at the doorway. Her soft sobs filled the room like quiet echoes of everything he had refused to feel. He whispered, "I'm sorry." But she didn't answer. She didn't look up. She didn't move. He left, and the door clicked shut with a finality that felt like punishment. Ava waited until the echoes of his footsteps vanished before she collapsed into the chair again. Her fingers trembled uncontrollably as they traced the uneven ends. This wasn't a trim. It wasn't a mistake. It was intentional, cruel, humiliating. Something inside her cracked. A piece of trust she hadn't realized she'd given him. She stared at the fallen strands on the floor. A piece of her identity. A piece of her confidence. A piece of her that had been taken without permission. Her chest tightened painfully. How could she show up to the wedding? To photos? To Julieta? To anyone? Her sister would kill her. The guests would stare. The whispers would follow her for years. And Hawthorne, why had he done it? Why would a man like that, powerful, controlled, unreadable, do something so personal, so violating? Nothing made sense. But the one thing she did know, this wasn't about hair. It was about power, about dignity, about something much deeper than scissors. Her hands curled into fists. Her breath steadied. And slowly, very slowly, the shock hardened into something else. Resolve. If he thought this would break her, he had no idea who she could become. Avelini didn't sleep that night. She sat on her bathroom floor, knees pulled to her chest, staring at herself in the mirror with a hollow ache pulling at her ribs. The harsh bathroom light only made the uneven strands more brutal. One side nearly to her chin, the other still shoulder length. Random chunks missing like someone had carved at her with hatred instead of scissors. Not someone. Hawthorne. Every time she blinked, she saw his silhouette, the glint of the scissors, the soft fall of her hair hitting the ground. She heard his voice too, quiet, restrained, sounding almost broken when he whispered, "I'm sorry." But she couldn't let that soften her. She couldn't let herself excuse him. The clock blinked 3:41 a.m. She should sleep. She couldn't. She should cry. She refused to. Instead, she stood abruptly and grabbed the kitchen shears. Dull, but necessary. If she had to face the world tomorrow, she needed to fix what he ruined. Hands trembling, she cut. Snip, 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 trying to even out what he destroyed. Trying to salvage something. Trying to breathe. By the time she stopped, she stared into the mirror at a version of herself she didn't recognize. Short hair now, grazing her jaw in a sharp, choppy bob. She looked angry. She looked hurt. She looked powerful in a way she hadn't expected. She exhaled, slowly, deeply, and for the first time in hours, she whispered, "I'm not letting you win." Morning came too quickly, its pale light slipping into her apartment like an uninvited guest. Ava forced down a sip of coffee, grabbed her bag, and walked out the door. Every step felt heavier. Every elevator dinged sharp. Every reflection in the mirrored walls a reminder. When she stepped out onto the corporate floor, conversation stopped. The receptionist froze mid-sentence. Two analysts stared openly. Someone gasped softly. Ava kept walking, head high, shoulders straight, determined to pretend her heart wasn't pounding loud enough to echo. Her reflection in the glass walls caught Hawthorne's attention before she even reached her desk. He stood in his office doorway, as though something magnetic forced him there. His eyes widened. A flicker, almost pain, passed across his face. She didn't look at him. She walked straight to her desk, sat down, opened her laptop, and pretended he wasn't there. But he didn't move. He stayed standing, staring at her with an expression she had never seen before. Haunted, guilty, unsteady. Finally, he said quietly, "Avellini, come inside." She didn't look up. No. He blinked. No one said no to him. Ever. "Avellini," he repeated, voice low, "we need to talk." She typed, "That's unfortunate. I'm busy." His jaw tensed. "This isn't a request." She lifted her eyes then, not timid or fearful but sharp, burning with the pain he caused. Neither was the haircut. A muscle in his cheek twitched. He stepped closer, too close. She pushed her chair back immediately. That, more than her words, seemed to bruise him. "Avellini, please. Please." The word hung in the air like something fragile and impossible. Hawthornvale did not say please. Not to anyone. Not for anything. She stood slowly, feeling every pair of eyes on them, and walked into his office. He closed the door behind them, but she positioned herself near the window, far from him. He didn't circle to his desk. Didn't sit. He stood there, hands shaking slightly, barely noticeable, but she saw it. He was unraveling. "Good. Avellini," he began, then stopped. He dragged a hand through his hair. He tried again. "I didn't mean to hurt you." She laughed once, sharp, hollow. "And yet you did." He flinched. Silence stretched, heavy, tense, suffocating. Finally she said, "Why did you do it?" His breath stalled. He opened his mouth. Nothing. She waited. 2 seconds. 5. 10. Nothing. He couldn't answer. Or he wouldn't. She shook her head. "You know what's worse? Part of me expected this. Not the haircut. No, but something. Some way you'd remind me that my place in your world is beneath you." "Avellini, no. It's true," she snapped, voice cracking. "You look at me like I'm something you're trying not to feel. Something you want to avoid. Something you want to break." His eyes tightened. "That is not." "Then why did you do it?" she whispered. His chest rose and fell, uneven. He didn't look away. He didn't blink. He just couldn't answer. And that silence was her answer. She took a shaky breath. "I'm not going to the wedding." He stiffened. "What?" She crossed her arms, nails biting into her skin. "Look at me. Look at what you did to me. My sister will tear me apart. Everyone will stare. Photographers will immortalize it. I can't walk into a room like this, Hawthorne." Her voice broke on his name. He closed his eyes briefly, as if hearing her say it hurt him. He stepped forward instinctively. She stepped back. Something shattered in him. He stopped, hands curling at his sides. "Avellini," he said quietly, "I will fix this." She laughed softly, bitterly. "You can't fix everything with money." His jaw tightened. He said nothing, because she was right. "I deserve better than this," she whispered. "You do." The admission was immediate, quiet, pained. She blinked. That wasn't what she expected him to say. It knocked the breath from her lungs. He continued, voice raw. "You deserve someone who doesn't hurt you." She swallowed. "Then why did you?" He closed his eyes as if the question physically hurt. "I don't know," he whispered. And that's the problem. The honesty hit her like a blow. She wasn't prepared for honesty. Not from him. She folded her arms tighter. "Stay away from me today." He inhaled sharply. "Avellini, please," she said softly. "I can't breathe near you right now." His expression cracked. Just slightly. Just enough for her to see the truth. He cared. More than he wanted to. More than he should. More than he could handle. He stepped back slowly. Then further. Until he was against his desk. Hands gripping the edge hard enough his knuckles whitened. "Take the day," he murmured. She blinked. "What?" "You're right," he said, voice shaking at the edges. "You shouldn't have to see me today." Something inside her twisted. Not forgiveness, not yet, but a confusing ache she didn't want. She turned to leave. Her hand reached for the door. Then he said her name one more time. Not commanding, not cold, but almost pleading. "Avellini." She paused, but she didn't look back. "Yes." A beat of silence. He exhaled. Quiet. Defeated. Don't disappear. Her heart squeezed painfully. She forced herself to reply. I'm not disappearing. I'm just walking away. And she did. She walked out the door with shaky courage, leaving Hawthorne standing alone in the office, staring at the space she no longer occupied. The door clicked shut behind her. He didn't move. He didn't breathe. He didn't speak. He just stood there, in the wreckage of his own making, realizing for the first time in his life that he might have broken the only person he never wanted to lose. Avellini pushed through the lobby, desperate for air. She stepped outside, gulping in the sharp city breeze, then sank onto a bench. Her hands trembled. Her pulse raced. She didn't know what scared her more, what he did to her, or the fact that his apology had almost felt real. She shouldn't care. She didn't want to care. But something inside her whispered that whatever drove him to hurt her wasn't simple, or shallow, or cruel for the sake of cruelty. She hated that she wanted answers. She hated that she wanted something from him at all. At that moment, her phone buzzed. Julieta. A pit opened in her stomach. She didn't answer. Couldn't. Not yet. 2 missed calls. A text. Julieta. Send me a picture of the dress. Ava closed her eyes. She couldn't handle this today. She tucked the phone away and rested her head in her hands. This was too much. Too raw. Too twisted. And somewhere several floors above, Hawthorne stood alone in his glass office, staring at the door she walked through. For the first time in his life, realizing he was terrified. Not of losing power, not of losing control, but of losing her. The drive to the emergency rescue center wasn't supposed to happen like this. Yet there they were. Elin curled in the passenger seat with her uneven hair tucked behind one ear, and Ronan gripping the steering, like it was the only way he could keep himself from falling apart. Rain hammered the windshield, each drop a reminder of the disaster he'd created, and the silence between them felt like a living thing, tight, hot, impossible to ignore, until the car skidded into the gravel lot, and he whispered, I didn't want you hurt. She didn't look at him, only unbuckled slowly, her breath trembling as she stepped out into the storm. But he jumped after her, jacket over her head, following her like a shadow he couldn't outrun, and that was when the storm sirens wailed overhead, forcing everyone in the lot, strangers, workers, travelers, into the underground shelter beneath the center. The concrete room smelled like metal and damp clothes, humming with the quiet fear of a dozen people, and Ellen slid against the wall, hugging her knees, refusing to acknowledge the man pacing a few feet away, running his hand through his soaked hair like guilt was burning through his skin. Forced proximity had a cruel humor. Every time she tried to shift away, someone else moved, and Ronan ended up closer, until the space between them was only a breath. You shouldn't be alone right now, he murmured, voice low, raw, not commanding like her boss, but almost pleading, and she finally looked up, eyes red, cheeks streaked from the rain, saying nothing yet saying everything with that single exhausted glance. He crouched beside her, hesitant, like he was approaching a wounded animal, and his hand hovered near hers, not touching, just shaking from the sheer restraint of wanting to but not daring to. Why are you here, Ronan? You got what you wanted, she said, the words slicing deeper than scissors ever could. And he flinched, actually flinched, before whispering, I never wanted to break you. I wanted to stop you from leaving. That confession hit the room like thunder, and she stiffened, heart pounding, because for the first time she wasn't seeing the billionaire CEO who controlled every inch of his world, but a man whose voice cracked when he admitted, Your sister, her wedding. I knew once you went back to that life, you'd realize you deserve better than this job, better than me. Another alarm blared overhead, the kind that made everyone else gasp and huddle, but Ellen didn't move, didn't blink, because Ronan's jealousy, the real reason behind everything, was suddenly, painfully clear. You cut my hair because you were afraid I'd leave? She whispered, disbelief and anger tangling inside her chest, and he swallowed hard before nodding, shame pulling his shoulders inward. A little boy nearby whimpered at the echoing siren, and without thinking, Ellen shifted to comfort him, brushing his curls and murmuring softly, and Ronan watched her with something like reverence, like he was seeing the exact thing that terrified him most. Her kindness, her warmth, the very thing he feared someone else would claim. You don't get to cage people Just because you're scared, she said quietly, eyes still on the boy, but her words aimed directly at him, and Ronan's breath stuttered, as if she'd reached inside him and gripped the truth he'd been running from. When the sirens finally faded into a softer warning tone, the boy's mother thanked Elin and walked away, leaving Ronan and Elin alone again in a silence so fragile it could shatter at the smallest sound. He took a slow breath. "You're right," he said, voice barely audible over the hum of generators. "I can't cage you. I won't. But Elin, please don't walk away before I have a chance to fix what I broke." And for the first time since waking up to her chopped hair on the floor, she actually looked at him. Not the damage he caused, but the fear, regret, and desperate sincerity twisting his features. And something inside her softened. Not enough to forgive him. Not yet, but enough to let him sit beside her without moving away. The storm continued above them, muffled but present, a reminder that they were stuck together for now, whether they liked it or not. And as the lights flickered and the room hummed with the tension of people waiting for safety, Elin whispered, "Then start fixing it." Ronan exhaled shakily, relief and terror tangled in that single breath. And for the first time since the nightmare began, he dared to hope. The storm passed hours later, but no one rushed to leave. People stretched, yawned, gathered their belongings. Yet Elin and Ronan stayed where they were, sitting shoulder to shoulder on the cold concrete, as if neither trusted the world above to be any gentler. When they finally climbed the narrow stairs and stepped into the silver morning light, the air smelled of wet earth and something strangely clean, like the world had been washed, reset, and Elin felt the same uneasy shift inside herself as Ronan quietly opened the passenger door for her, not insisting she enter, just offering it like a question. The ride back was silent until Elin asked, barely louder than the engine, "Why did my sister's wedding scare you so much?" And Ronan's jaw tightened before he admitted, "Because weddings remind me of promises I watched fall apart, and I didn't think I deserved anything good, especially not you." That answer sat between them heavy as a confession, and when they reached the driveway of his estate, instead of walking inside, he led her toward the small garden behind the house, a place she had only seen through glass, where the morning light clung to the roses still dripping with rain. There, with his hands trembling openly now, he whispered, "I grew up watching my father promise the world to my mother while destroying her piece by piece. I told myself I'd never want anyone that much." He paused, breath unsteady. "And then you walked into my company with your spark, your ridiculous loyalty, your laugh you try to hide, and I panicked." Elin swallowed hard because the pain in his voice was so raw it scraped the air itself. But she stepped closer, brushing a wet rose petal with her fingertips before saying, "You hurt me, Ronan. You humiliated me. You made me feel small when all I ever did was show up for you." He nodded, eyes burning with remorse. "I know, and I'll spend as long as it takes to undo that. I don't want your forgiveness today. I just need you to know," he breathed out heavily, "that cutting your hair wasn't about making you less beautiful. It was about my fear of losing the one person who looked at me like I wasn't a monster." Her breath hitched because she'd never heard him speak with this kind of cracked honesty, and when he gently reached out, slow, cautious, giving her every chance to pull away, she didn't. His fingers brushed the uneven ends of her hair, and instead of shame, she felt something new, a trembling warmth rising from the quiet truth between them. "Ronan," she whispered, "I'm still going to that wedding." And he nodded immediately. "I'll drive you, and I'll sit in the back row if you want. Or outside, whatever you choose. But I'm not hiding from what I did." That stunned her more than anything, the humility in it, the shift from control to surrender, and for the first time she saw what trying really looked like. She stepped closer, close enough to see the raindrops still clinging to his lashes, and said, "I'm not asking you to sit in the back row. I'm asking you to stand beside me, as someone who's trying to be better." His eyes widened, a breath catching in his chest like he didn't dare believe it, and then he nodded, slowly, reverently, as if accepting a gift he never thought he'd earn. And when he took her hand, it was different now. No pulling, no claiming, just holding, gently like something sacred. As he whispered, "Thank you, Elin," she felt the truth settle deep. Unexpected, impossible, yet real. That sometimes love doesn't come wrapped in perfection, but in broken people choosing to heal instead of run. And as they walked back toward the house, side by side, she realized that her disastrous haircut, the humiliation, the storm, the shelter, all of it had led to this quiet morning where something fragile and hopeful finally took root. And, for the first time since everything began, she felt like she had won.